Ed and Marcus are my co-hosts. So again, if you use vulgarity or so something vulgar, you'll be removed from the meeting. All right. So welcome, Alex Lopez. Let's go.
Good evening. I will now call the roll. ANC 6001.
Present.
6002 here. 6003.
Here.
6004.
Oh, here, me.
6005.
Present.
6006.
Present.
6007.
Present.
We have 7 out of 7 commissioners. We have a quorum and may conduct business.
Fantastic. All right, everyone, Happy New Year. We're gonna have a very short agenda this evening, hopefully, as I say. All right, but the first part that we have to do, because it is a new year, is that we will be electing new officers for the commission. And our special guest tonight is Commissioner Alex Marriott, who will be running the elections. Go, Alex. So remember, so we have chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary.
Hey guys, good to see everybody. I hope everybody's off to a good new year. Like Commissioner Nigro mentioned, according to the ANC 60s bylaws, we're going to move in the order of chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. First, there'll be a nomination from a commissioner of someone to fill that role. After all the nominations have been accounted for, we will have a vote. After that vote is concluded, we'll move to nominations for the next office. If you don't mind, when you do a vote, raise your hands because sometimes it's difficult to hear. So with that, I will start taking nominations for chair.
I nominate Michael Eichler for chair.
Commissioner Eichner has been nominated.
Second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Wiggins. Are there any other nominations?
Move we close on the one said name.
Well, we will take our vote. All those in favor of Commissioner Eichner as the chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, that makes it nice and easy, 7-0. Perfect. All right, now I'll accept nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Rachel Nigro.
I'll second that. Okay, it has been nominated and seconded. Any other nominations for vice chair? With that, let's take a vote. All those in favor of Commissioner Nigro as vice chair?
Aye.
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 All right, another 7-0. I'll take nominations for secretary.
I'll nominate Alex Lopez for secretary.
I second.
Any other nominations? With that, all in favor of Commissioner Lopez as the secretary?
Aye.
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 7-0, perfect. Finally, we have treasurer. I take nominations for treasurer.
I
Nominate Frank Wiggins.
I second.
Okay, nominated and seconded. Any other nominations? Okay, with that, all those in favor of Commissioner Wiggins being the treasurer?
Aye.
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 Perfect. Well, with that, congratulations, new officers of 2022. Good luck, commissioners. Thank you again for including me in this, and best of luck to everyone.
Thank you, Alex
Good to
Marriott.
see you, man.
Bye. All right, so, but this also means I am still running this meeting, so we get one more night of me. But I can assure you, Commissioner Eichler is going to be a fantastic chair, way better than me. So, all right. So now, oh, I have to show the agenda. Okay, hold on. 1 second. Okay, so here we go. The only thing that we add are kind of, so this is just a tidbit. So we were just redistricted to Ward 2. Part of my area is Ward 5, and below New York Avenue is Ward 6. So we got a lot of stuff going on. So for the Mokers, it's going to be 2, 5, and potentially 6. Well, the Ward 2 person is going to speak for 6. So that has been added, the Ward 5. I moved up Naomi to be right below Charles. Okay, any questions, commissioners? No?
I move that we approve the agenda.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Frank seconds. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, Kevin. Kevin waves. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna have MPD. Who do we have over here from, let's see, 1D. Donegan was supposed to come, Ed. Lieutenant Donegan and Lieutenant Daye for 3D. So who's here from 1D? Oh, there he is, Ed. Lieutenant Ed, we'll move you over in a second. Okay, everyone, this is 1D. This is the area that is south of New York Avenue. Lieutenant, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought my Zoom app crashed on me.
That's all right.
So Lieutenant Donegan, again, the area south of New York, just as you said. I'm going to stick to my 2-minute time limit. So in this area south of New York, there were 2 violent crimes in the last 30 days. Both of them were shootings, unfortunately. On, I'm sorry, I'm saying my time limit. On December 4th, so exactly a month ago, at about 5:30 in the evening, there was a shooting, a serious shooting in the 400 block of K Street Northwest. That's where 2 groups of people got into some type of an argument that led to members of both groups pulling out guns and shooting at each other. And unfortunately, one person from one of the groups was struck in the head with a bullet and was transported to hospital, where, to my understanding, he remains in very serious condition. One of the group members has been identified and was arrested for carrying a pistol without a license. But the actual shooting and the assault with intent to kill remains an open case for the detectives. And the violent crimes branch, or the homicide detectives, are taking the lead on it based on the seriousness of the injuries. And then the other violent incident was on December 18th at about 8:20, 8:30 in the evening, right at North Capitol and M Street Northwest, where somewhere around 25 to 30 shots were fired. There was one victim that was transported by private means to a hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. And then there were about, I think it was 10 cars that were damaged and a few windows damaged in nearby buildings from all of the, the inordinate number of shots fired there. That case is still open. And of course, we're still soliciting any kind of information from any community members that might know about who did it. As far as property crime, it's really, it's kind of looking a little better than it did last year. Our theft from autos have gone down pretty significantly. The stolen auto problem, that it remains the same citywide, of a lot of delivery drivers leaving those cars running unattended and acting surprised when they are not there when they come back. So just if you, I don't think it's residents really causing that problem. It's people that aren't from around here. So when you make your orders for Uber Eats or DoorDash or whatnot, if you put in your notes to remind your driver to turn their car off every time they get out, would be helpful. And that's my report for you.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for the lieutenant?
Question, does any of these operations who hire drivers deliver, do they do any type of educational process with the drivers not to leave their cars running, left unattended? I
We
know
have
it's, I know common sense isn't always common, but I'm just curious.
Right. It's a common question, even from our own officers. We have reached out to those companies and asked that they put even just like a pop-up when they log in, when their drivers log in, just as a reminder. In short, I think they are not interested in that. Probably that they don't want to discourage new employees, or I don't think they're employees, new contractors is what they treat them as, from working for them. So I think there's still some pretty high level talks with them, trying to get them on board, because I think that would be a pretty effective way.
So since they're not liable,
versus
they don't really care.
I think that's kind of
At
part
some
of it.
level.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's the pushing the grassroots of customers telling the drivers themselves to turn their car off and lock it.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Frank. Patrick, Denise, Kevin, anything? Nothing? Okay, nothing about the shooting on K Street? Okay, all right, so let me, Patrick, no.
I was just gonna say, I think it seems like mostly the situation is unchanged from what we heard from Captain Darrow last month. So unless
Okay.
there's an update, Lieutenant Donegan, it doesn't sound like there's anything too new though. Still with
No.
homicide, et cetera.
Right.
Okay, all right, community members, this is for Lieutenant Donegan. This is the 1D area, which is south of New York Avenue. I think Avi has a question. Avi, Ed will move you over. Avi, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So my question is regarding this past shooting, but also the one on the on L Street a couple weeks back. Also, that was two groups shooting at each other, and it was that corner over there has a lot of loitering that goes on, particularly by the Child's Park, and my understanding is that that incident had ties to the area, and the daily loitering, I suspect, is tied to that Plaza West. And so my question is, was that L Street shooting related to connection to the Plaza West development adjacent to the shooting area? And secondly, I know that property has had frequent MPD visits from time to time. And I know they have private security. However, I have not really seen them around that area where there's a lot of parking, but that area seems to have a lot of loitering with on the by the parking area against the trees and also by the park. So yeah, it's a loaded question, but I just was curious if you had any insight on whether you had any communications with that development to increase their patrols by that park instead of necessarily just in front of the building where I've seen their private security stationed. Over.
So certainly a lot to unpack there. To start, just to be clear, the shooting was on K Street, not L Street. Just to clarify that.
I'm sorry, yeah, there was the shooting prior to that one in November. That's the other one.
As far as what the groups involved were linked to, really can't get into what we do know, and then obviously what we don't know. To speak about loitering, there is no law prohibiting loitering. Just the same as you or I can go hang out at a park. Anyone can go hang out at a park. So the people hanging out is not a police matter, and it would be inappropriate and illegal for us to tell somebody that they couldn't hang out on public space. With the security, private security companies, either security officers or the special police officers, depending on kind of what authority they have, they are always restricted to the private property that they work for. So while they may do kind of patrols around a building, they're limited in what they can actually do when they're not on their property itself. Just the same as they essentially are private citizens when they're walking on public space and off of their own private property, which is, that can certainly be a little problematic as far as what enforcement they could take, or what, disruption they might provide. So I hope that answers it to some degree. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. I mean, the loitering was part of, there's a lot of, occasional drinking and I think some drug use that's been, I've heard from previous meetings here that was discussed. So it was, partly related to the loitering in that context where there's, the activity that they're engaged in may not necessarily be illegal activities, but understood and I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Avi. Thanks, Lieutenant. Okay, anyone else from the community would like to talk to the lieutenant? This is 1D. Press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature. Anyone else for 1D for the police? Okay, going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, Lieutenant, thank you. And next we have Lieutenant Daae for 3D. This is the area that is above New York Avenue. Lieutenant Daae, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening,
Hi.
Happy New Year. So I'll try to keep it really brief because I know we're running out of minutes, but we did have a robbery on the 28th on the 1500 block of 4th Street Northwest, and nearby, I think this falls more to 5E, but on the 100 block of Hughes Street Northwest, we also had a robbery, and both happened during the day hours around 10 a.m. and involved construction workers. So just keep that in mind if you have your ring cameras in the area. Let the residents know about ring cameras, and that construction workers are still being targeted for robberies. In terms of other thefts, we did have an increase of thefts overall for theft from vehicles and jump-in vehicles, just jump-in step-stone autos for the whole district. However, I'm looking at our maps, and it looks like the area of 6E is actually looking at a decrease in that because we're not having as many thefts happen in 6E area in compared to the rest of the 3rd district. I available for other questions right now. Just go straight into it, and anything you guys, anything I can answer at this time. And I believe Captain Small's on the call, and he's also trying to join me.
Oh, let's move Captain Small over, Ed. So I do have a concern, and you might be familiar with this because, as I talk to the watch commanders often,
Right.
and I don't think it was you that night, or that, I think it was early morning. Anyway, so Paradise Gardens, I represent, as you know, is the apartment complex, which is on L and 7th Street. Hundreds of my constituents are there, and there were some concerns about cars being broken into in their lot. Well, okay, then you're familiar with this, and I am concerned still that when 911 was called and the police were dispatched and my constituent talked to the police, they could not find the apartment complex. So, and this was not from the Office of Unified Communication, this apparently is from the police side.
Mm-hmm. So
are we clear? Now
we're clear. 7th and L should be able to be located, but so again, that's something we talk to our officers about. It's just knowing the area. We do have new officers in the area, but it's just going around and trying to reach out, talking to the Office of Communications. That's why it's important for the caller to call our call takers at 911 for OUC so that they can field all the proper information and get a proper contact number to call back to, so that the officers, if necessary, can reach out to those people themselves when they're dispatched to those calls.
I think that happened. I just think there was some befuddlement when the police arrived or didn't arrive.
Okay.
But that won't be happening again, will it?
No, it will not.
Okay. So, all right. Any other commissioners have any questions for 3D, Lieutenant Daae, and Captain Small is on.
Hi, yeah, I'll go ahead and take a shot. Thanks for your updates. I just wanted to ask if there's any information about a lot of gunfire that occurred just after, well, I believe 2 a.m. on the 1st early Saturday morning at 8th and O Northwest. There are bullet holes in the glass windows at the Giant grocery store. There's bullet holes in the glass windows of the Convivial restaurant. I was just wondering if there's any update on that. And then also if I could get an update on what is the status of the new community focused patrol unit at MPD. I saw a release recently that I believe Shaw was being added to the list of neighborhoods that have some foot, bike, scooter patrols coming. And, you know, when I hear the other caller earlier asking about how we might discourage loitering, well, one way is to have police officers walk by and just say hello to people and just actually be there on the street and get to know people, right? I think being part of the community is a really important way to help deflect and divert crime within our community. And so I'll go on mute and just hear whatever you would like to update on that.
Okay, I'll talk briefly about the sounds of gunshots and the gunfire, as we'll call it. There were no injuries from that gunfire and only property damage. So we did take reports for those incidences, but there's no injuries for those. So yes, it was the first and second. Unfortunately, we're going to be investigating those. On A Street, there's a lot of cameras, and the detectives will have to do what they can. I'll let Captain Small, since he's on, talk about the focused community policing. If he's available for that.
Before he
Hey there,
speaks,
everybody.
I will have to concur with Eichler. At midnight, when the fireworks was going off, I could hear the gunshots mixed in with the midst of the fireworks. I could tell the difference between the two. So I was very concerned about all the gunfire that I was hearing at 12 o'clock midnight. So just FYI.
Yeah, that's something that you know, like the lieutenant was saying, we are investigating that one right now. Fortunately, we did not have any injuries. It was property damage only, which you know, we're very fortunate in that. But it's, of course, you know, it's no consolation prize by any means. So it is actively being investigated. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some closures with that, and you know, from the evidence that we were able to collect in it. You know, historically in the district, we have a lot of folks that will discharge firearms celebrating the new year. It's gone on for decades, and it's something that we work really hard to every year. There's a tremendous amount of planning that goes into trying to deal with that as much as possible. It is, but there are times that the volume of gunfire that kind of happens can sort of overwhelm the situation. And, you know, we're aware that there, you know, are probably instances where somebody will, you know, take advantage of the fact that they know that around that time there are going to be fireworks, and there's also going to be some other people that might think that they're doing something harmless by shooting a gun in the air, because they're not, but you know, they're not thinking about the fact that, you know, bullets come back down somewhere. Yes. And they will take advantage of what's going on and go after somebody that they're targeting. So in this circumstance, we don't have any evidence to say that it was like an indiscriminate shooting situation where somebody is just open fired into a crowd of people. We do believe that, you know, there were some targeted individuals in there for whatever their justification might be, but it is being investigated, and really would encourage anybody who might, you know, have cameras on their properties to take a look at their videos just to see if there maybe is something that they might have missed, because you never know what little bit of video information will really help us close some of those cases. And for anybody in the community that might have information regarding people that have guns or people that are using guns in these violent crimes, we've been able to work with the federal government to increase the rewards for that can help lead to some prosecutions. And in some circumstances, even without a prosecution, just getting the gun itself recovered might net that person some, you know, I'll call it a reward money for being able to get an illegal gun off the street. You know, it is somewhat complicated more by the fact that, you know, guns are no longer the taboo in the city. People are allowed to legally own firearms in the city. And one of the, it's not those individuals that we're concerned with. It's the people that are, you know, looking to get guns for specific reasons to do these criminal acts. And those are the people that we're looking for and trying to get, not just, you know, the average citizen who wants to exercise their right to have a firearm. It's the people that are looking to get guns through illegal means and then do crimes with them. And many of those guns, as our chief has talked about, are traded throughout the city. And we have sort of a smaller pool of guns that are being used in these crimes in many different locations. So when we do get those guns recovered, even if a person isn't arrested at the time that we get that gun, it might close out any number of crimes because we'll be able to tie it to so many other instances, whether it's just what we consider it to be an unlawful discharge, which is a crime. You know, whether it be DNA evidence, fingerprint analysis, or the tool markings that are on the evidence that's recovered. So really trying to get that pushed out because it really does help with it. But in this particular case, it is actively being investigated. I'm keeping an eye on all of our resources to make sure that any information we can get out to any of you, we can as soon as possible. Our Twitter account is helpful with it, and our YouTube account is helpful for looking at those videos. And a lot of times the videos and stuff that we get from the citizens are what we are able to use to help put together those pieces and put it on the YouTube page for everybody else to see. And then lo and behold, somebody recognizes somebody and we're able to get an apprehension and a successful prosecution with that.
Okay, Captain Small, someone said, now this is, you have a kind of almost a permanent officer near the Giant. Is it possible to post an officer more permanently on that corner due to the shootings? But don't you guys already have one at 6th and O, or whatever that corner is?
They have a patrol area that they're responsible for. A lot of times what we do is we'll have a vehicle in a certain location and the officers will get out and they'll be on foot in the area around there, walking the beat that they're given to patrol it and use the vehicle, not just to get them to where they need to be, but to show that we have the presence visually. And then the officers will get out and the patrol on foot and hit those spots and those locations and what it is that's going on. One of the things I really would encourage people in the neighborhood to do, whether they're just a passerby or somebody that might own a business or work in a business, is what they used to call vice crimes, the gambling, the drinking, things like that. Please, by all means, call us, let us know what's going on, so that, you know, we can get to those individuals that are doing those things, whether it be just to deter it and discourage it and get them not to do it there, or to maybe get an arrest if that's what needs to get done. Because unfortunately, a lot of these crimes, like these shootings, might occur because of a dispute that arose out of something as what seems as innocuous as a dice game or something else, or just individuals that might have had too much to drink and their tempers flare. So please, you know, don't feel like you can't call about those things. We can't always guarantee that an arrest will occur out of it, but just the contact and, you know, the presence and trying to get people to realize, like, the community is not going to tolerate that kind of behavior in this location really has a big impact. And you know, just because we don't necessarily make that arrest doesn't mean that we're not able to really get a good reduction in criminal activity just by making contact with people and letting them know we're not going to tolerate it in this neighborhood because the community doesn't want it.
Okay, so we have a question from Father Vincent DeRosa. And you want to move him over? Father DeRosa, you have a question?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Captain, thank you so much for your presentation. At the last meeting, we learned that about the attrition rate of officers over the last year and so on. And we've all talked about the need for more foot patrols and more officers just being friendly in the neighborhood and so on. We all agree on that. Councilman Allen is going to be on with us shortly. How many men and women do you need in your district? What's your ideal number? Because we know that the council has been difficult in terms of giving us more officers. So how many do you need to do your job?
That's a data-driven answer that I don't have the access to right here in front of me. And information like that and that discussion really is the purview of the chief of police. And I'd have to defer to him or his representative for that. But that's a data-driven answer that I can't just come up with. There's no magical number that really says if you have X number of police officers, you achieve whatever your objective is. But I have to defer to the chief's office for that information specifically because it is a very data-driven answer.
Okay. Thank you, Father, for that. Any other questions from the community? Press star 9 if you're on the phone or use the raise your hand feature.
Commissioner, I think Commissioner Eichler was asking about the
Oh.
community unit. I didn't mean to get to that, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
So the chief of police office, they make a determination on a rotating schedule that they set up on different locations throughout the city that they're going to be deploying their community focused unit. It's a community focused unit, but that doesn't mean that our officers here in the 3rd district aren't doing, community oriented policing every day. It's a major factor and tactic that we use. And I say that in a good way. Our officers are out here trying to have as many good interactions with the community as possible, whether it's stopping by businesses or trying to make contact with delivery drivers who, are one of our number one targets for the opportunistic thefts of their vehicles and things like that. I do believe we will be having the community-based unit getting deployed soon again in the 3rd district. I don't have the information of where they have decided to deploy them, but it is a very effective unit. A lot of great officers are in it, and the chief's office is really trying to make sure that as many places in the city get the opportunity to have them in their neighborhoods for a period of time as possible. So it is always rotating, and where they get deployed is determined by crime trends and the need to get them there. So even if a particular neighborhood needs to get them, it doesn't mean, just because you don't get them 1 month does not mean that, you've been forgotten about, ignored. They will be coming around. So hopefully we'll have them again soon. I don't have the information for specifically where, but I do believe it will be in the greater Shaw area, if you will. And so hopefully we'll have them here relatively soon.
I have a question, Michelle.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
On midnight of January 1, when those gunshots for a fire, I believe there was a car stationed at 7th and O and a car stationed 6 and O. What is the proper response if I can hear gunshots a couple of blocks away from that site? What is the proper response to the officers in those cars at that particular time? Are they radioing to someone else? Because I didn't see those cars move at all. They stayed stationed when I could hear the gunfire clearly in the midst of the fireworks. So what is the proper protocol of what they're supposed to do if they're stationed in the neighborhood and they hear something like that?
So the units that are over in that area right now, a lot of times those officers are on foot. They may not necessarily be in the vehicle at any given time. They park the car in some of those locations and they get out and they move around looking for different issues and trying to address them. That is a very difficult night for the officers to deal with in an effective way because of the volume of gunfire that might occur. Okay. And it's kind of like, they're hearing these sounds and they're basically trying to determine, is what I'm hearing gunshots or is it fireworks? Where is it at? Now you add in the complications of you're in a environment that's filled with buildings, the sounds echo. So they're trying to figure out where some of these things are coming from, because they're also receiving hundreds and hundreds of calls from citizens and all over the area that are also hearing it. So when they're calling it in, they don't necessarily see where the fireworks or gunshots are coming from, and they're giving their best estimate of where they think it is. So the officers do have to, try to make the best decision about where to go to look for the problem when it's happening, while trying to maintain safety of themselves, safety of the citizens that are around them, and focusing on, and many times, and I can say from my own experience, the person that you're able to actually see who's doing it right now, because that's the guy or girl who you really need to try to make that apprehension on, because I might hear gunshots behind me or in front of me behind a building. I can't see where it's coming from, but when I'm able to actually see that person who is actively doing that, or is giving very clear indications that they are carrying a firearm, that's the person who we're really trying to make that apprehension on. And we're also trying to do that in a way that's safe as we can possibly be in a situation that's inherently dangerous, and not have a situation that results in people getting needlessly hurt, because that's also at the forefront of all of our officers' minds all the time.
Okay.
Getting that person who's got the gun, who, even if they're shooting it, if they're not shooting it at a person, they're shooting it into the air or whatever it might be. It's not that we don't want to get that apprehension, but we don't want to have a person get hurt because they're doing it around a crowd of people and they're not targeting a specific person. And we have innocent bystanders who just happen to be there get injured in the process. So it's a very,
Okay.
it's like a loaded question and a loaded answer, no pun intended, of how to do
Understood.
that in the safest way possible. In many of those cases, what we do is we try to collect as much evidence as we possibly can, so we can as quickly as possible get search warrants done to get into these buildings where they're hiding those guns, because people will pop out of nowhere, crack a bunch of rounds off, and then hide in the house. And it can oftentimes be safer for everybody involved, whether it's the bad guy or the officer or the citizen that's just outside, that we don't rush into the situation and trigger a shootout where you have people just get killed in the streets or injured or property, any of that stuff. When we can do it in a safe way, get that gun recovered or those guns, and get some people held accountable for the crimes that they're committing at the same time, and nobody gets hurt. And that's always the goal. So it's a very difficult thing to answer, and there's not one single way for me to describe how we go about doing that.
Okay, Captain, thank you. Anything else, Frank?
No, that's it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, there was something from our little questionnaire, but I think you answered it. Someone asked about what are you doing to ensure the safety of residents wanting to go to the Giant? You answered, you guys are there. So, and also the folks in 7th and O are drinking and smoking illegal drugs in front of the posted police vehicle. Why are these folks not being arrested?
We try to make those apprehensions as much as possible.
Okay.
But I guess one of the things I would say is, how do we know that they aren't getting arrested when we can? And a lot of times these officers are dealing with individuals where the person, it might appear that they are consuming a illicit substance, and upon some interaction with them, they aren't. It's not just you can't always just say, I know this person is doing drugs right now. You got to get hands-on. They got to make contact with those people and try to get that problem solved as much as possible, in a way that's good for everybody.
Okay.
And our officers do have discretion with some things, and there are instances where it may not be the best thing for everybody involved if a person is always arrested for some of these things, where they have to make a decision on a case-by-case basis. And I would also say there is something to be said about, does the community want every single person getting arrested just because they might be doing something that is like a vice crime, like they used to say back in the day? Or do you want to have as many officers out here having a good impact in the community as possible, and dealing with the violence that's driving these things, and try to put a stop to that, as opposed to every small thing just because you can?
Okay, Captain Small, we're just gonna have one more question from the Corey Williams, and then we're gonna have to move on. So Mr. Williams, or Ed will move over, Corey, well, there he is.
Okay, I asked that question there, and I just—
Oh, that was you, okay.
Yes, I did, but I want to just go into this thing of where, as someone who is a 4th generation Washingtonian that knows the kind of the area and different things, when it is a bit disconcerting, like when you walk to go get coffee at 7 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 p.m., there's always a crowd of folks on the 7 and O street. And you can smell marijuana, you can see that they're drinking. You can see that. And I understand what you're saying about just, focusing on like crimes that may come from that. But I think from the opposite standpoint of that is that if they were not there and kind of being dispersed and actually said, okay, you can't loiter kind of around that way, it just would create for a better environment, right? Like there are definitely times, I mean, in the last, December to now, there have been at least 3 or 4 shootings. I'm waking up in the middle of the night of folks driving down, shooting. You can see them always run down this way. There's a car chasing. It's the same 3 or 4 cars that you see parked on this street most of the time. And so I think it's a thing of like, I understand what you're saying, but it's like, oh, you have to, as citizens, we want to feel like, oh, we can walk freely, right? And not necessarily be worried about a random bullet coming our way.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Williams. Okay, Captain Small. I'm gonna need to have your answer be brief because we've got to move on.
So it's one of those things where the calls are what we need. I don't need folks to worry about calling 311 versus 911. Just call 911. We'll come out, we'll handle it. I would only ever suggest 311 for something that is truly not an emergency in any respect. So if in doubt, just call 911. For the crimes that you're talking about, we wanted to have as much of an impact on that as possible. And we do have a lot of instances where our officers are making arrests for some of these crimes that you're talking about. And the issue that kind of becomes is you can't arrest every single person, because every time one officer makes an arrest, that officer is gone from that area and off the streets for a period of time. And we don't always have the ability to automatically put a person right back there just because. So they have to try to balance their approach to what's going to get have the best result for the community to reduce the problem and try to deter it as much as possible. We try to deter it with our presence, and we try to deal with it with the arrest when they are necessary. Loitering is an issue in the city, but that's a city issue no matter where you go. We do not have a loitering law in Washington, D.C. We do have in commuting. We have a situation where the walkways or entrances to buildings, whether it's public or private, are being blocked from a person who wants to just use them. Please call us, let us come out and give us as much information as possible. Please consider being willing to take a call back from the officers to get more information, because we have a lot of instances where the officer can't truly follow through all the way to the end because they can't talk to the person who is the victim, so to speak. They can deal with it as much as possible, but without a person who can give them the keys, the keys to the car, they can't drive it. They need, and yes, you can be anonymous, but I would always encourage people to consider, leaving a call back or waiting on the phone with the dispatcher if possible, so we can try to get a little bit more done with that. In terms of loitering issue, it is not a crime. That's something that I'd have to defer to legislators. I'm not able to really discuss that because that's just not in the purview of the police department. But we do hear you, and we are trying to deal with that as much as possible. The calls to get the service are what we need. So please don't hesitate to make the call so we can try to address it as effectively as possible and work with us, or be willing to work with us, so that while we try to take a variety of approaches to getting that done as best we can.
Okay, thank you, Captain Small. Thank you, Mr. Williams. I'll have the last. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to add something personally. I think in response to Mr. Williams, as well as to some of this other conversation about the incidents of gun violence in Shaw. I think that we were all really excited to hear the mayor's announcement a couple weeks ago that there will be a new violence interrupter program that's going to be set up, focused on the Shaw neighborhood. That's going to be through the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Councilmember Allen, whose committee oversees ones, may be able to speak a little bit more to this, but in a future ANC meeting, I would love to invite the ones director to talk more about that program and how they're going to be engaging in the Shaw neighborhood to help prevent some of this violence before it occurs.
Absolutely. Mr. Eichler, there's your task. Sounds good. Okay. And I'll get the last word here, Captain Small. I want more police presence over by Morgan Street and Kirby Street. That car stuff was off the rails this month. We're done.
I hear you. We are working on that as much
Okay,
as possible.
That's it. There you go. Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you, Captain Small, Lieutenant Day, Lieutenant, one to you, Lieutenant, okay. All right, fire everyone. And now we have our very special guest, Charles Allen, Councilmember Allen, who wants to talk to us about redistricting and other hot topics.
Thanks, Commissioner Nigro. Good evening, everybody. I had come to talk and do a redistricting update and outline kind of the ANC redistricting process, but I am more than happy to help field a couple of questions or talk about any hot topics you want to based on your agenda. But let me start with where I started, which was I wanted to come in and talk about redistricting. Before I do that, let me of course wish everybody a happy new year. I also hope everybody is staying healthy. We are of course watching just a incredible surge. I think 2,000 plus positive tests today, which is just continuing to grow. So just to you and yours, hope that everybody is staying healthy. Make sure that you have been getting regular reports of the access at the Wathati Daniel Library for picking up the at-home test kits. I've stopped by a couple of times to check on that progress, and it seems like it's going pretty well, but would definitely like to hear from you if you're not getting a good experience of being able to pick up those tests there. I know my own kids got vaccinated over at Kennedy Rec Center, and that was a pretty smooth process as well. So for the folks that have utilized that, I hope that that's worked really well. And if on the off chance you're out there and are not vaccinated or boosted, please take advantage of the opportunities that we have to get that done. All right, let me jump into redistricting, which is what I had come in about. So we have just finished up on the citywide ward level, the every 10-year decennial redistricting process. I hate it, absolutely hate it. It's not been fun. And I think to put it into context for everybody, Ward 6 had to lose about 20,000 residents. In the history of the District of Columbia, this is the largest single shift that was required by law of any ward at any time in our history. So we always have known that the Ward 6 boundaries were going to change. We knew that they were going to change probably significantly, but I think it's important to share that in context, that no ward has ever had to do and go through what we're going through right now. So there was no map that you could have put in front of me that I was going to be excited about. But the map is what it is now. I want to thank Councilmember Silverman and the many witnesses that came and testified, in particular, also several from 6E, to help talk about what they think a map just facing the reality should look like. I think Commissioner Nigro mentioned this early on, but essentially the line now is at New York Avenue. And so for the areas south, that is going to remain Ward 6. For the areas north predominantly are going to be Ward 2. There is a small section there, Commissioner Nigro and I were texting about this the other day, that is going to end up in Ward 5. Couple of things I want to make sure you know first and foremost. One, I want to make sure I came into this space, especially to speak to my commissioners, to tell you how deeply grateful I am for the work that we've done together. I'm going to miss working with you in this very close relationship of council member to commissioner, but I also know that these relationships, these things we've done, these projects we've been working on will continue regardless of where the ward boundary line is. It's not like there's a wall that's being built. So I know I can count on working with each of you moving forward, and I hope that you know the same. So please don't ever hesitate to make sure that we can partner and work together. I'm also committed though to have that transition be able to go as smoothly as we possibly can make it. I've already spoken, for example, with Councilmember Pinto about what are some of the projects that we had been working on, what's some of the history around different issues so that we can make sure there's a good, smooth transition. My staff has also been working with Councilor Pinto's staff to help think through what that looks like, how do we help? And of course, I have constituents still emailing me today from what is now Ward 2. I'm going to answer those emails the same way I have been and help try to work to help solve that problem. What I'll do is start looping in the Ward 2 staff to help make sure that that works. The next part of what happens in this process, though, affects the commissioners directly. And I wanted to make sure I shared this with you. And so that is we now go through the Ward ANC rewrite essentially. So for 6E, the line essentially splits 6E in half. Now 10 years ago, the southern portion of ANC 6E was a part of a Ward 6 ANC. But we now have to spend the next couple of months trying to think about what does the new ANC look like. For folks that may not know, from now until next year, we stick with what we got. We're not changing the ANCs for 2022, but the new ANCs will take effect in 2023. So each ward creates a task group or a task force. They'll meet over basically the next 2 to 3 months to kind of put forward a set of recommendations. The council then has to pass that, and it will both redraw the ANC boundaries as well as the SMD boundaries within that. The task force that I'll be putting together, I'll do the same thing we did 10 years ago under a different council member, and that is that we don't have sitting commissioners that sit on that task group, because we don't want, in the same way that board members don't serve on the registering committee at the council, you don't want a commissioner to draw their own lines. But I think that we will value greatly former commissioners to be able to help give their input and advice on this, having community and neighborhood leaders help give their input and advice. And I frankly would turn to the ANCs and would welcome ANC 6E. If you have formal recommendations that the ANC wants to put forward as well, that would be welcome as well for us to think through what that looks like. I had one person note to me, which I think was a very smart thing. If I'm not going to have sitting commissioners serve on this task force, like was done 10 years ago as well, that I should also ask anybody who does serve to commit that they are not going to run for ANC, just on the off chance that somebody tries to get on the commission to, draw their own lines against a future opponent. And I think that makes sense. So I'll ask that as well of anybody who serves on that task force. The process will likely take place over January, February, and March. It comes back before the full council for a vote. And so if anybody is interested in helping think about and wanting to serve on that task force, I'd encourage you to reach out to me on the Ward 6 side. I can't speak for Councilor Pinto, but my hunch is she's going to have a somewhat similar process, and I'm sure she'd welcome to hear from residents in Ward 2 about what they would like in that process, and if they're willing to serve in that capacity as well. The only other piece that I want to make sure you hear me say about this is I don't believe that we have to always look at ANCs as having to strictly follow ward boundaries. What I mean by that is this: if it is the will of the community to say, you know what, there's actually a lot of value in having us have a Ward 2 and 6 ANC or a Ward 2, 5 ANC that best reflects and represents a community and a neighborhood, regardless of where the ward boundaries land, I'm open to that. And so I would really welcome your feedback about if you think that makes the most sense. Maybe, then again, maybe it makes sense to divide it along a major thoroughfare. Maybe it doesn't. But I start from a position of being really open to that, and I'd welcome your feedback about that. So I just want to make sure that I put that out there for folks. Commissioner Nigro, what I could do, I can turn to some other hot topics if you want me to, but I wanted to make sure I kind of came in to talk about redistricting, what that ANC process looks like. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer that, and then can share other.
Let's focus in on that, Councilmember Allen. And I will speak for constituent Ed, co-host Ed.
I saw him clapping.
We do like that last idea. You know why. All right, commissioners, any questions for Councilmember Allen about the redistricting before I open up for it to the community?
I have one question and one comment. The question I have is given ANC 6E's current boundaries and the population growth in the last 10 years, approximately how many single member districts would this area need to create? We have 7 right now.
Great question, Commissioner Lopez. Do you mean for the entirety of what 6E currently is, or do you mean future, like north or south of New York Avenue?
I guess current 6E boundaries.
Okay. I don't have those numbers in front of me. I can certainly try to follow up and get that for you. The Office of Planning would probably get us kind of that micro level of the SMDs. I think you are going to see SMDs remain in that roughly 2,000, or at least it's supposed to be roughly 2,000 residents. Can be a little above, a little below, but it's supposed to be around there. With some of the population growth that we've seen in 6E, in 6A, in 6C, and 6D, we have some commissioners that are representing 4,000 to 5,000 to 6,000 residents, which is just a little bit insane. So I can, Commissioner Lopez, try to get that information for you. The Office of Planning will provide that for us as it helps us then kind of map out what those SMDs could look like. I just don't have it at my fingertips right now.
Okay, and then the other thing is that I know that parking is remaining kind of how it is right now. There is a small irregularity due to ANC 6E not shifting its parking passes in the last redistricting, where I think that there are a couple blocks in Commissioner Nigro's area that there are 2 blocks that are currently Ward 6 RPP or Zone 6 RPP that will be moving to Zone 5 RPP under the redistricting legislation, and 2 blocks that are Zone 6 RPP that are moving to Zone 2 RPP under the new legislation. Just wanted to flag that that's something that you may want to address through legislation to either avoid that or maybe just clarify that those changes will be happening, at least I think in the DMV records for RPP issuance.
So I like to tag on to Alex's. So on behalf of all of my constituents, since parking is a very sensitive thing, that those zones kind of stay the same for as long as humanly possible. So it's a big deal. And we know, I've told them eventually it's all going to change. And I know there's maybe a plan in the work for that. It would just be for just the ANCs. You've heard about that plan, right? From Henderson. So, but we would love the status quo to remain as long as possible, if that is possible.
Well, we wrote it into law.
Okay. So
status quo is what stays for now. I know some people were like, no, it's just empty promise. It's going to change. And it's written into the law. I think that if there's a part of Ward 6 that is probably the most complex when it comes to which zone parking, it's going to be your neighborhood. So I certainly would stand ready to work with you and others if we need to make tweaks along the way. I'm going to look to you to help guide that, though, like in terms of what you think works best for your neighbors. I think that, we all remember, it was an issue 10 years ago. I'm sure it'll be an issue now. But you've got lines that kind of just zig and zag, and one side's 2, one's going to be 6, one side's 5. And so making sure we have your parking that works best for you is what I care about. So I'm going to look to you to help give me feedback about what you think needs to be changed, if at all, or tweaked. But as for right now, the status quo is what stays in place.
Okay, we appreciate that. Okay, commissioners, any other questions for Councilmember Allen about the redistricting? Patrick?
Risha, if I have a non-redistricting other special topics question, should I hold that for later?
Let's hold that for a second. Okay, anyone else? Frank? No? Okay, so I'm going to open up to, go ahead, Frank.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Councilmember Allen, would you be able to copy all of us when you send something to Lopez about the numbers? Because I know our district really kind of grew. Our ANC 60 grew exponentially. So I was just curious as well how many ANCs will be developed out of that, those numbers.
Completely. Anything I can get, I'll certainly share with everybody. Just I will be contingent on getting it from the Office of Planning. So again, I just don't have those numbers at my fingertips about
I understand
those building by buildings, but
right.
He should have that information at that level.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, community members, this is specifically only for questions for Councilmember Allen about redistricting. Anyone have any questions about? So if you're on the phone, press *9 or use the raise your hand feature. Only questions about redistricting. So as we now know, the lower part of our ANC is still Ward 6. The area most of the area above New York Avenue is Ward 2, and a little part of my area is Ward 5.
I'll add, Commissioner Nigro, that actually there's a small sliver of ANC 2C, so to your south as well, that will now become
that's right,
Ward 6. I think it basically looks like it makes up about 1 and 1.5 SMD. Figure out what that looks like, but we will be welcoming a small section into Ward 6 too.
And co-host Ed has a question.
Hey, Ed.
Hey, Councilman Allen, question on that proposal, will that require legislation to undertake, or can that be something done with the pen? Just,
Do you mean the ANC and SMD?
yeah,
line?
like the one where it would possibly
Mhm.
cross ward lines.
It'll be legislation.
Okay.
And to be transparent, I will also need my colleagues to agree for that type of cross-ward ANC. I just think, again, our communities don't end at a random street. You know, like sometimes it makes sense, you know, for those boundaries to kind of follow major roadways or other things. But I think as 6E, probably more than most ANCs knows, ward boundaries are drawn right in the middle of neighborhoods. And so I want to see our ANCs best reflect our communities and our neighborhoods. And if that means that we have one that crosses over a ward boundary, I'm perfectly fine with that.
I would just add one thing, which is that when it comes to ANCs crossing ward boundaries, you know, we work with a lot of liaisons that are ward specific, and having to have a Ward 2, a Ward 5, and a Ward 6 liaison all reporting to our ANC meeting would really add to our agenda. And also, you know, it's really helpful to have, as my boss says, one neck to grab when you reach out to an agency to get some help with something. So if you are interested in considering multi-ward ANCs, it would be helpful to have the entire ANC allocated to one ward for a MOCR or a DDOT representation. I think that would be helpful.
Yep. No, sorry if that was unclear. I agree with you actually, that you want to have your ward be your ward, and have those MOCRs to have very clear lines of distinction. And I think, I'm not going to say exactly, but let's say that there's a small section that just moved from Ward 6 to Ward 5. But maybe is kind of used to being in Ward 6 and Ward 2. And so that would make a whole lot of sense. If that were to pass, that kind of small area, I think you could create the lines of reporting from a MOCR perspective or an agency representative perspective that doesn't create what you're talking about, like having the 2 or 3 people. So you only have one neck to grab. Yeah.
Okay.
Trying
All
to use
right.
an example that Rochelle feels.
Okay. All right. So we don't have any more community questions about redistricting. So commissioners, let's have just a little bit, if you don't mind, Charles, a little bit of time about other stuff. Commissioners, go first.
Do you want me to share a hot topic updates, or you want me to answer hot?
Or why don't we have the commissioners ask you questions?
Sounds good to me.
Go commissioners.
So do you mind? I'll go first, Rochelle.
Go ahead, Patrick. Yeah, please.
Councilmember Allen, hey, thanks for the time tonight, and I appreciate the update. I've got 2 kind of questions as we head into the new year. I kind of racked my brain about the hottest topics that I got emailed about in the last year, and that'll probably give you a good sense of like what our top kind of feelings and things that people are really concerned about in 6005, which is, as you know, Mount Vernon Triangle. The first is we got a new bike lane this year, but we've had some real implementation problems from my perspective in making it work for people. And both DDOT and DPW, no one really wants to touch it. I think it's a little bit of enforcement, but it's a little bit of policy change that needs to happen from DDOT's perspective. And after they sort of installed the bike lane, I think no one really wants to engage on it any further, is kind of the feedback I've gotten from the agencies. But from my perspective, it's a traffic safety, incident waiting to happen. It's a really chaotic street, especially when it's nighttime and the weather's nice. Right now, it's a little bit sort of quieter because of the weather, but it can be really chaotic. So I would just want to flag that for you and people from your office, to the extent that they can influence the process, to the extent that you can influence the process in getting that situation resolved. We'd really appreciate that. And the other comment I'll make, and you've sort of heard it in the first hour of our meeting, folks are concerned with public safety in a major way. We've had 2 shootings in the last 2 months. So some folks are sort of pointing to that as a trend. So to the extent that you can comment on that as well, that's something that people are thinking about. Thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me try to hit both of those. On the first, I think when we put in infrastructure, you got to be able to enforce it. And one of the things that I don't see happening from a DPW perspective is being able to enforce. You know, I'll be honest, I'm really questioning kind of the leadership at DPW overall. We've had an abysmal leaf collection process all across Ward 6 and all across the city. I don't believe that we planned very well for the street bike lane plowings for the snowstorm. I'm getting a lot of complaints about that right now. There have been a number of issues with DPW that I feel like initiatives that are not just about, you know, clean up the street. Like we have initiatives that were focused, for example, on, this is a nexus to public safety. You know, the mayor, we worked hard to put forward a whole series of initiatives with Building Blocks DC to create pathways to employment. And one of those was to help get people connected to jobs in DPW. Couldn't get people, DPW wouldn't hire people. They wouldn't get people processed and get people in. That means you got folks that were trying to create opportunities, we're trying to help create pathways, and they face a roadblock. Over and over and over again, I'm concerned about this. We think about it from our traffic safety perspective. When you got 4 people that are able to boot a car when they've racked up $10,000 worth of speeding violations, it puts folks at risk, and I don't think it can work. So I think that there's a lot there. The way you're talking about K Street and your S&D is very specific and very real. I think it also is emblematic of the larger problems that we're seeing across the board. Because I'll wager I could talk to a lot of other commissioners and kind of have the exact same frustration. So I think that this needs to be a priority for 2022 is focus on that. I'll pivot that to also talking about public safety. Completely agree with you. You know, this is an area, you know, I think I heard comments, I think Commissioner Lopez brought up, you know, one of the things that we have been pushing on is how do you fully fund public safety? And those are complementary efforts. I think that people spend way too much time focused in this either or type of camp, go to their corners and just kind of shout, it's got to be either or. There is a both and. And I think there's very smart strategic ways that we are fully funding public safety efforts in a complementary way. And some of that's what took place this summer with the budget work. And we put forward unprecedented investments in public safety. That is both in the traditional styles of public safety within MPD and within policing, and also with alternatives in terms of ways that I think give a much more robust approach. It's something that Chief Conti and I have talked about repeatedly and are working together on. It's what the deputy mayor and I are working on. It's what the mayor and I are working on. And specific to the Shaw community, having the Office of Neighborhood Safety Engagement be able to really focus in on this neighborhood with new investments. Those are funds that I put into the budget to focus in on Shaw to get more resources into the community to focus on violence prevention. And so I think that is a really significant effort. When I talked to the commander right after you know, the shooting, Commissioner Parledge in your S&D, you know, I said, you know, walk me through what happened. And he said, you know, this wasn't a policing issue. These are 2 folks who had easy access to guns and decided to pull them out and use them. And getting at those issues, I think, is incredibly important. I want to add one other item, though, that is related, that gets to one of the things I heard one of the captains talking about, and that is from the detectives' work and the investigation work to what we have our Department of Forensic Sciences. So DFS is a independent lab run by the city that lost its accreditation. So this is the group that basically looks for, when he was talking about being able to track a gun and link it to multiple different incidents of gun violence, or be able to use latent fingerprints, they all lost their accreditation. They're not doing the job anymore. And they've put every case that's ever come through at risk. It is an abysmal failure of DFS. And it puts everything at risk. So all those things that he talked about being able to do, DFS can't do anymore. And that's a really significant problem. So we are having to completely rebuild DFS from the ground up when it comes to their gun unit, to how they handle shell casings, to fingerprints, and it jeopardizes every case that's ever gone through on 2 fronts, both on questioning the integrity of a conviction that took place, and also I think it's detrimental to survivors and victims to have bad work that then finds its way into the courts. So that, I think, is a clear area that in 2022 is going to be an area that I put a lot of focus on, about how we have to completely rebuild an entire agency that has a huge impact on public safety. And I think it's something that should be a priority that I think it kind of gets lost in the mix a little bit, but it is incredibly important for us to be able to have the work done that then actually results in all the things that I think it was Captain was talking about in terms of being able to carry those through when there is an arrest made, when there is a gun used, to be able to have accountability for that.
Any other commissioner have a question for Councilmember Allen?
Sure.
Or go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for chatting with us this evening, Commissioner Councilmember Allen. To follow up on the comments that you just made about public safety, you know, we hear from our constituents that they want to see police on the sidewalk. We then bring those concerns, those requests to the police when they come to our meetings every month, and they say that they are understaffed. They say that their funding has been cut. They say that they don't have a new class coming out of the academy this year. And they say that we need to be talking to our lawmakers about increasing staffing levels of police officers. So when I want to see community policing, and I'm told that talk to council, so here I am talking to council. So yeah. I would be curious to hear if you might consider increasing funding for policing and for the staffing if it is contingent on those being used for community policing efforts and for, you know, getting people out of their cars, officers out of their cars and on the sidewalk where they can meet members of the community, know who sort of belongs there and who doesn't, and kind of have more of a read of what's going on within the neighborhoods. Because right now, often the car is there, the officer's in the car, but they're not interacting with the community, right? And we're told they need to be in the car in case there's an emergency somewhere else, right? But they could be preventing an emergency around the corner if they were actually walking around the neighborhood. So we're kind of stuck in this catch-22, and it does seem to come to council for a potential resolution. So I'm interested in hearing from you about what those proposals might be. Also just noting that, you know, studies that I've seen talk that, you know, increasing in the police force reduces overtime, and reduction in overtime reduces police shootings and police violence because they're calmer and more capable of having their wits about them as they're interacting with the public. So I think that is something to be looked into a little bit. And then secondly, I'm really curious. I mean, honestly, I think DPW is doing okay. It's really DDOT and DCRA that I'm having a lot of challenges with when it comes to getting things done. And I really would love to see, and I don't know if this is the job of council, but it could be, to create an office of performance for the district government that actually monitors performance of how long it takes for a request to, you know, to be completed successfully, and to set targets and to be public and open about what's on everyone's lists of items that they're working on, so that it just doesn't go into a black box when we submit requests that are coming, you know, public safety or, you know, traffic safety requests or, you know, illegal dumping. All of these things go into 311 and they just disappear. So any way of sort of closing the loop and creating like a performance and accountability office within the District of Columbia that can really make sure that they're moving in the right direction, because right now, again, it just feels like a black box that we're throwing a lot of stuff into. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Commissioner. On your second point first, at the council, the performance hearings are scheduled to start in about a week and a half. And that is the time when we have annual metrics to get reported out. Each agency, if the committee chair is doing their job, goes through very significant reviews of their performance, of their metrics, of all the things that they should be doing. You know, I don't sit on all, I think I sit on most of the agencies, I don't chair those. But in terms of DPW, DDOT, DCRA, others, that's one of the spaces where we have that. I know I always value when commissioners report out, you know, kind of what they're seeing, experiencing. So I will take it. If you've had a roughly good experience at DPW, that's good to hear. But not with DDOT, DCRA. I can't find anybody who's had great experience with DCRA, to be honest. Occasionally I get some good reviews from DDOT, occasionally some really bad ones. There's no agency that's working perfectly, that's for sure. But, you know, I think that type of performance oversight is greatly needed. To your other question around council, I haven't been in those meetings you're talking about. I mean, perhaps if you've got an officer that's telling you something about a council budget, they might need to talk with their boss. Over the last 2 years, the chief and the mayor have reduced MPD's budget by $120 million. So that's not the council initiative. That's something that came from the mayor and the chief. Attrition, I've heard that talked about before. It's been reported widely that attrition is no different than it has been in the past with MPD. DCS, WMU, they've reported on this, that the metrics are all this, are roughly the same year over year. I think I heard one of the community members ask a question about like, how many people do you need? I think it's important to note we've had a much larger police force with much higher gun violence and homicide rates as well. So study after study, and as well as our own experience shows you there's not an equal, if you have this number of officers, it equals this much of public safety. I'm somebody who believes that policing though has a very important role in public safety. And that's when we talk about, let's ask the right questions. What are the ways in which we achieve public safety? And there is going to be a very important part of that is law enforcement, that is policing, that has a very clear and important role in that. But what I think we're really talking about is how is it that we are accomplishing both an immediate and urgent response to public safety and violence and harm when it takes place, as well as asking the question, why did it take place in the first place? What are the underlying causes around it? And how can we invest in both of those things at the same time in a way that really help change the story? Otherwise, we just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I think that's the conversation we're having about how we do this. I'll use one example about how do we use our resources better. So through oversight, I found out that with the OUC, our 911 call center, we were dispatching tens of thousands of calls to MPD that once we do after action reviews on everything. They weren't emergencies. They did not require law enforcement to respond to, yet we were sending officers, cruisers to tens of thousands of calls. That's not a good use of the resources. So we now have created a 911 triage system essentially. So when some calls come in, could be mental health, could be behavioral health, could be other issues, we're able to try to dispatch the right type of person to that. Also leaving your law enforcement for the issues that they need to respond to. So we're trying to be smarter. We're trying to use our resources. And this is something that we're working in collaboration. This is something where Chief Conti, Deputy Mayor Geldart, the mayor, the city administrator, we're all trying to work together in this to really take a very collaborative approach. I don't think it's going to do any good for people to point fingers. I think we're really trying to come up with and work together on a very collaborative approach to really focus in on how we're moving that needle and ultimately delivering. I think it was Mr. Williams who said, should not be able to walk to get a cup of coffee in the morning. He's absolutely right. And so how do we achieve that is what we're really working on.
Okay, great. Any other questions from the commissioners? Otherwise, I'm going to go to the public.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Councilmember Allen, thank you for joining us this evening. Over the last month, there have been a series of news articles related to don't shine a good light on MPD internal affairs. One article stated that there were 24 officers that have been accused of serious crimes, including domestic violence, driving under the influence, and assault, for whom MPD had wanted to dismiss the officers or otherwise, but they were not dismissed because of an adverse action panel decision. And then there were several other articles that were covering discrimination lawsuits filed by Black women police officers and MPD staff alleging racial and sexual discrimination at MPD. And so I'm wondering, as the chair of the committee with oversight of MPD, how are you going to address these serious allegations and ensure that there is proper oversight, and that some of these things are that we don't have officers who have committed serious, potentially allegedly committed serious crimes that are not able to be dismissed.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Commissioner. This is why transparency and accountability, I think, actually is intrinsically linked to public safety, because it speaks to both being able to have the proper type of oversight of policing powers, as well as have trust and confidence in having someone hold those powers. The first item that you're talking about has to do with some deep dive reporting. I believe it was The Intercept. It's some really great reporting. For folks that don't know, MPD got hacked about a year ago, and a whole bunch of their internal data got put out. And as they dug through the files that were not public, they weren't reported, they weren't part of oversight, they were completely hidden. But because of this hack, they became public. found out about this group called the Adverse Action Panel. And so when officers were brought up on different charges or allegations, an adverse action panel would make a determination about whether or not there should be some type of discipline or whether that person should keep their job or not. It is a completely opaque process that is not transparent. There is no ability to know what it looks like. But for this data hack, no one would even know that this exists in terms of what these outcomes are. So part of what we're looking at legislatively is how to open that up. When there's I think that certainly everyone's entitled to due process. So when someone has an allegation against them, they deserve due process for that. But what the outcome is, these are your tax dollars. These are public employees. There should be more transparency around that so that they can be accountable for that decision. I've also had conversations with the chief, who is frustrated that when an adverse action panel says, no, this person, a recommendation may have been this person should lose their job for what they did. And this adverse action panel says, no, we just think maybe they do a 7-day suspension and they keep their job. The chief is now bound by that decision and says, but wait, I think I actually don't want that person on the force. And they're not able to take those actions due to the collective bargaining agreement. That's also one of the reasons why within the police reform, we've removed collective bargaining agreement around discipline because you shouldn't be able to negotiate your own discipline from a police officer perspective. We're looking at legislation specifically aimed at what came out of that story. It was an incredibly important story that I think was very helpful and will help us with that oversight, accountability, and transparency. To the discrimination charges that you've talked about, we've actually held a hearing previously where we talked about that. Since then, they have filed a lawsuit. So now it is actively in the courts. So I have to be a little bit aware of the fact that it's actually now pending litigation that is between a group and the District of Columbia. And so I have to be careful about how we insert ourselves in a formal way, but we have our oversight hearings coming up very soon. And I guarantee you it'll be part of what we talk about during this too.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. All right, so we're going to go to John. I see John Shaw. Ed will move John over.
Hey, John.
Or unmute it. Mute John. Hi, John Shaw.
Yes, I didn't have any questions.
Oh, you had your hand raised.
But it's great to talk to you, John.
No, I didn't purposely raise my hand. It's good to see you again, Charles.
I just wanted to say hello to you, John.
Well,
Good
thanks,
to say
John.
hello.
I'll talk
Happy
to you
New Year.
later. Okay.
Yeah, when do we have coffee? When do we have coffee again, Charles?
We need, well, let's maybe let Omicron go a little bit, but yes, I'd love to have some coffee with you, John.
Okay.
All right, thanks, John. All right, anyone else from the community? This is just if you have a general question for Council. Go ahead, Kevin.
Commissioner Rogers, Happy New Year.
Hey, Commissioner.
Charles. Look, I've been getting a run around. Me and Patrick, we kind of share the borderline at 4th Street, and I feel the same way. I feel the same way that Patrick did. His views are on point. From 5th Street all the way down to 1st, right? We have, DDOT shot us with they shot us with a blank diagram, right? They didn't make the bike lanes AD accessible. People having trouble when they come out their building now. They not only took away the parking spaces, but they took entrance right to into the Metro Access or Uber. At 1st and K, they promised us 25 spaces when they took out the few spaces in front of my building. And I still been arguing and fighting with them ever since. This has been about 3 months, going on for about 3 months now, right? DDOT promised us 25 spaces, right? And then they reneged on it and said that the government can't view that right now. So I'm trying to find out, do anybody knows anything about 43 K Street, right? On the 25 spaces that they was going to allow us to have. I talked to Andrew DeFrank, and Mike Deneau on this situation, right? And all of a sudden it just went quiet. So my views on that, right? I would like somebody to get back with me.
Yeah.
How these parking spaces can come available, because my community eat me alive. I get fussed out every day about these parking spaces. And I know parking is very, is a big commodity in the city, you
It
know?
almost always comes down to parking, right? Any issue somehow can come back down to parking. All right, Commissioner, let me do this. I don't know off the top of my head exactly at 43K, but why don't I do this for both yourself and Patrick? Why don't we follow up, get together on an email so that the three of us can figure out some next steps here. Andrew DeFrank is no longer in that position at DDOT. So I don't know if maybe that's one of the reasons why the communication hasn't happened. Kelly Zhang, you may remember, was the smoker several years ago. She's now taken over Andrew's position at DDOT. She just started, today's Tuesday, I guess yesterday. So she just started in that new position. She's been a little busy on the first day with a snowstorm, but we're working with her. So why don't I do this though, Patrick, if this works for you as well. Patrick, Kevin, and I will get together, and anybody else who'd like to, and we can kind of see if we can't put our heads together with DDOT and see where we take it from there.
That'll work for me.
Okay.
All right, great. Denise has a question. Denise?
Hey, Commissioner.
Hey, Happy New Year,
Happy New
Councilman
Year.
Allen. My residents have a great concern. You know, I have to concur with Commissioner Eckler on the violence and the shootings in our area. You know, as I've shared, you know, we've had quite a few, sound like machine guns or the army is here right near our block. That's a big concern for the residents here in this community. Even on January the 1st, we repeatedly heard gunfire well after the new year had come in. Just wanted to know, I know that some of the alternative agencies are coming here to our neighborhood, like the violence interrupters. And I just wanted to know, you know, what say do we have as commissioners as well as community leaders in the neighborhood? You know, how have they worked with us? See what the need is, you know, we know they're coming as well as into the Shaw neighborhood, but just wanting to know, you know, what type of input do we have as leaders in the very neighborhood that we serve?
I think it's a great question. And I don't want to put the work on the ANC, but I think I heard the suggestion of like having Ms. McFadden from the Office of Neighborhood Safety Engagement. I would also recommend Linda Harley Harper, who's the head of the new, she's one of the things the city's had no gun violence prevention plan, no strategy. And so I created a new position called the Gun Violence Prevention Director. That's Linda Harley Harper. So that's her job, is to try to coordinate all these different agencies and efforts. And now turns out when we asked, well, who has the plan for gun violence prevention? Nobody had an answer. So now we're funding an entire citywide plan to focus on gun violence prevention rather than just this kind of haphazard approach. And so I would, you know, I can facilitate this and be happy to do this with you, but if it sounds like you're going to have a conversation at some point to bring in Office of Neighborhood Safety Engagement, the Building Blocks DC or Gun Violence Prevention Director, I think that would be a great idea to have them join in that conversation as well, either in a full ANC meeting or just a meeting for commissioners. I think that could be really valuable, and I'd be happy to play a role with that and bring you, you know, make introductions if you need me to. Usually the mayor's folks are on these calls, these ANC meetings as well, so I'm sure they're listening and they could help make that connection as well, and we'll all partner up on that.
So Charles, she actually came to one of our meetings right after she got the role, but there was a concern because we weren't in the area or something at one time, and maybe we are now. So
I would say this way, Bill. So I think when it was first rolled out, they were very focused on these, like, we're going to do these very discrete things on these very discrete blocks. I believe that they have really tried to broaden their approach. And so I think a conversation you have today with Linda Harley Harper will be different than the one you had then. And we'll talk about the different types of strategies and approaches that they can bring. And I think I think that their initiative has evolved since those first early days, and you might find it to be a little more productive now.
That would be most welcome.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Before I go, I think we're done with questions, Charles. Oh, we do have something from the, we have some, who just raised their hand?
Me.
Okay, Frank.
Hey, Frank.
How you doing,
Good.
Councilmember?
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well. Quick question: is any update on the filling of the position of the office of AMC that Simon Gauntlet held?
Good question as well. I don't have anything specific, any kind of new updates on that. I know that they are searching. And I've started to hear about a couple of different folks that are interested in that position and kind of trying to figure that out. So I don't have any updates to share, but I know it's an ongoing search to fill that position permanently.
Are those persons former commissioners by chance?
I feel like the only people I've talked to have done so in confidence because they're not quite sure if they want to apply for the job. So I don't feel like I should tip off who they may be.
I would know. I was just curious if they had that experience. I just think being a former commissioner would give them great insight into the position. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Okay. Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Charles. Okay, one last question just from the chat. It's from Father DeRosa again. Councilmember Allen, you speak about fully funding in a both and way public safety, but the MPD has less police now for a larger city than they did several years ago. Both and would mean fully funding violence preventers and the police. You voted for less police than the mayor and the chief asked for, did you not?
No, that's not true. The chief came and testified. We had a budget that was put in front of us for new officers. We supported that budget. The chief said, that's all I can't hire any more than this. If I hire more officers than what's in this budget, you will get less quality officers. The mayor then came back right before we did our final vote on the budget and then asked for additional money on top of that. And we gave her part of what she asked for. So we increased even more to that. So I don't believe that would be an accurate way you put that, Father DeRosa.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much for zooming in with us. We appreciate your time and answering all of our questions, and we will still be seeing you in the future.
I know
hopefully.
I can, Rochelle.
You'll be hearing from me
Good
always.
to see everybody.
All right. Oh, anything from Naomi?
I hit most of the hot topiks. Naomi, unless you had something else you were going to bring up.
No, Charles and I talked about it earlier. He took all my points.
Okay. Well, always
I
good
gave
to
him
see
to you as a bonus.
Oh.
Absolutely, all the time.
All right. Well, we'll see you next month, Naomi. Thank you both for your time.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Okay. So next here comes a kind of the I don't call it the tricky part, but as Charles mentioned, the area now is Ward 2, Ward 6, that's almost a 50-50 split, and a little bit of Ward 5. So Ed, bring over Joseph Florio. And I'm going to say this wrong. Nokimus Hunter. You guys want to raise your hand? And for this evening, Joseph Florio will kind of be representing the group as a whole. This is our mayor's office liaison. And Joseph is with Ward 2. There's Joe. And I think I saw. Oh, hi, Mr. Hunter. Where'd Joe go? Oh, there he is. Okay. All right. Joe, go ahead. The floor is yours. You're speaking for the group, pretty much. Joe, we can't hear you. Joe, you have to unmute. I think you're unmuted. Joe, nope. You put yourself back on mute. There you go.
Hello.
Hi.
Good evening. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, everything went away, and we're back. It looks like.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll kind of dive right in. My name's Joe Florio. I am the Ward 2 liaison with the Mayor's Office of Community Relations. I'm taking over for Talib that used to be with Ward 6. I'm helping out the Kevin Pham, the other Ward 6 liaison, and so I'm here, but half the ANC has come into Ward 2 since then, so I think I'll be with everybody for a while now. And then I will go through and just dive into the mayor's update, and then I'll introduce my other colleague, Nokomis, after my remarks. So I'll just jump right in. First, I want to start on the mayor's vaccination mandate beginning on Saturday, January 15th at 6 a.m. Certain establishments will be required to verify that patrons ages 12 and older have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. So that's by January 15th, one dose is required. And then by February 15th, fully vaccinated requirement for persons 12 years and older. And proof of vaccination will be required at restaurants, bars, nightclubs, indoor cultural and entertainment facilities, and indoor exercise and recreation facilities, indoor events, and meeting establishments. Acceptable types of proof of vaccination will include CDC issued vaccination cards, immunization record printout from the patient portal of their vaccine, a COVID-19 verification app such as VaxYes or Clear, CLEAR. There's no city created app at this time. I'm not aware if there will be one at a later time, but VaxYes or Clear are the two apps the city is working with. Rapid tests, DC Health has ordered over 1 million rapid antigen tests, and as of December 29th, DC had distributed more than 100,000 rapid test kits to residents. Rapid test kits will be available at 8 district libraries 6 days a week, and 1,000 kits per library per day, and more available as supply increases. Residents can get 2 free rapid test kits per day, and proof of residency will be required, a district residency. So your ID, a utility bill, a lease, a bank statement, et cetera, will work. Mask mandate beginning on Tuesday, which began on Tuesday, December 21st. The indoor mask mandate was reinstated until January 31st at 6 a.m. The mayor will reassess by that date whether to keep the mask mandate or if it will relax by January 31st. Switching to DPW updates, Christmas tree pickups are starting. So DPW will pick up Christmas trees and just other holiday greenery between January 3rd and February 28th. So leave at the normal point of trash collection. And these items will be composted, and free mulch will be provided to residents in the spring. So I'm assuming I will get more updates on that as we get in more closer to spring. Leaf collection is still ongoing until January 15th, and I would just snowed. So DPW is more focused on snow plowing at this time, clearing the roads. So probably whenever all the snow melts or taken care of, leaf collection will likely continue. And I just want to hop into a couple 6E specific updates. At the request of a neighbor, I visited the unit block of K Street on December 21st to assess some of reports of abandoned vehicles. So I did that. There was about 5 vehicles. I reported to MPD first in case any might be reported stolen. MPD came back and said none were reported stolen. So I'm working with DPW to see if they deem that they will be removed, the vehicles will be removed. I did a sweep of ANC 6E05, which is a very clean SMD. I found a few abandoned items such as a shopping cart or bikes and unfinished utility work, which I flagged to the appropriate agencies. And I took a walk with the Mount Vernon Triangle bid and flagged multiple street poles that had cracked bases or with the lights that are out, and I had flagged those for DDOT. That's all the updates that I have. I know Nokomis Hunter, my colleague, is on, and I want to let him introduce himself. He is the Ward 5 liaison, and I know Commissioner Nigro, part of your SMD, is also there. So
the little area that could.
Hello guys, how you guys doing? Happy New Year.
So no, how do you say your first name? No.
It's Nokomis.
Nokomis. Okay, Nokomis.
Yeah.
So this is just so, I don't know if you saw the map. So this is basically 2 blocks south of Dunbar High School, Morgan Street, Kirby Street to New York Avenue. And this is the little area that went to work. So this was going to be a not too heavy a lift for you, but I just wanted to make you aware and to invite you to say hi and, you know,
Okay.
because there is this little area.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I'm always open to meeting new neighbors, and open to fresh-minded individual or resident. So I'm more than willing to collaborate on any initiative or idea that you guys may have, or any way that I can work with you guys. To add on to what my colleague Joe was saying, I know he gave majority of the update. So I believe December the 9th of last year, the mayor and the director, Lindy Harper, that Councilmember Charles Allen had mentioned, and the director of the WANF office, which is Director Dale McFadden, they had announced the action that the district will be taking to expand violence prevention and intervention across to 3 other wards, which is Congress Park in Ward 8, Shaw in Ward 2, and Edgewood in Ward 5. To let some of the residents know the district is doing everything possible to to provide services to to the community that is experiencing gun violence. Also want to let you guys know that this gun violence prevention will make $1.1 million in grant money available to community-based and nonprofit organizations that are working to reduce gun violence. The grant will require a partnership between the entities or organizations that is working on reducing gun violence. So if you guys know any community or have anybody that is interested in working, that's already doing the work that's already out in the community, or that has a program that is focused on giving our DC residents, a family wraparound services. I would encourage you guys to reach out to the Office of Neighborhood and Safety Engagement. They have, funding available to, to assist with this initiative. With that being said, I would like to, leave the floor open for any, additional questions or concerns. Just want to let you guys know I am here. Again, my name is Nokomis Hunter. Phone number is 202-251-5049. And you can reach me on my email as well, which is nokomis.hunter@dc.gov. I make sure I put that in the chat.
Well, the chat's not open. So, but that's okay. You see the gentleman in the corner, Ed Anderson? So you need to get to know Ed. Ed lives in this Ward 5 area, and Ed's the man over there.
Okay. I hate Ed.
He'll be in touch with you. All right, commissioners, any questions for these 2 fine mokers before I open it up to the public? Anyone? No? Okay. Okay, public, this is our mokers representing our areas. Press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature. This is from the mayor's office. Any questions? We'll be seeing certainly a lot of Joe. So no questions. Okay. All right, gentlemen. We'll hit you up next month.
Perfect. Sounds good. We'll be in touch. Thank
you for zooming in. Okay, and then briefly, Ed, move over Brian. And I always screw up Brian's last name. Do you see Brian? Ed? Oh, there he is. Romanowski. There he is. So Brian is with Pinto's, Councilmember Pinto's office, and he will be very brief with a quick hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
Let me tee you up, because next month we have a request that it'll be the Ward 2 Councilmember Pinto and the staff will come, but Brian's gonna be very brief in the hello.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, I just wanted to introduce myself. So I'm Brian Romanowski. I am Ward 2 Council Member Brooke Pinto's Constituent Services Director. We are thrilled that many of you are now Ward 2 residents and are here to help if you need anything. As you know, the boundaries did change on January 1st, so you're already Ward 2 residents. I'll make sure that your commissioners all have my email address and phone number to share with you as they see fit. Councilmember Pinto hopes to be joining you in February, as Commissioner Nigro just said, to introduce herself. Until then, you can sign up for her newsletters at brookepintodc.com. Again, that's brookepintodc.com, or follow her on Twitter and Instagram. I did just want to mention that budget season is already upon us. And so next week, Councilmember Pinto is hosting a Ward 2 budget community meeting. This will be on Thursday, the 13th at 6:30 p.m. And this will be to hear from residents about what some of their budget priorities are for the next budget. And so I know that's a really important meeting and I want to make sure you all are aware of that. The link to sign up will be on our website and on social media, and I'll also share that with the commissioners because we do ask that you RSVP. And that's all for me. I know you got a long meeting ahead of you still, so thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brian, for zooming in. Okay. All right, everyone. We're going to actually move on to an actual part we're going to vote on. So this is in my area. This is 211 Morgan Street. This is looking for support for the BZA office concerning a request for a different lot percentage. And Ed can move over Carrie, who I saw her name earlier. Carrie, you want to raise your hand? There you are, Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Hello, hi, everybody.
So, and we, Tony Brown is no longer our, he resigned for our zoning chair. So I'm the temp zoning historic chair at the moment. So, and we did have our committee meeting. And so, Carrie, why don't you go ahead and talk about your project, your request?
Yeah, thanks for having me, everybody.
And do you have anything to show? Do you have a show? Do you have anything to show?
Do, if I can figure out how to share my screen.
Do you share a screen down there?
Yes. There we go. That.
Okay.
Perfect. So I live at 211 Morgan Street Northwest. I'm on the second story of a 2-unit row home. And currently my unit has a Juliet balcony in the back, and I'm seeking to build a spiral staircase that will provide access from the second floor down to the first floor at a parking pad in the back. Here is, apologies, here is currently what it looks like. I'm on the second floor and don't have direct access to the back, and we're seeking to do that. And to do that, it will increase our property, our lot occupancy by, I think, like 1.3% to 63.7%. Or yeah, 63.77%. So we're seeking an exception to that 60% rule for that. Does anybody have any questions about it?
Okay, Carrie, why don't you go ahead and take down that?
Okay.
Okay, so this is a pretty simple request. So when we did have our meeting, the main bullet point with this was due to safety. There was a, to make it safer, right, for the people that live there. There was a question about, was there an internal staircase? And Carrie verified there is not. Right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. And the committee members were supportive. It was 700. So just so that the percentage that I have, Carrie, is 62.62 to 63.77.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay, commissioners, any questions about this addition or putting up the spiral staircase? It's a BZA request. No. Okay, anyone from the community have questions? Press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature. Nope. Okay, All right. I move that ANC 6E support the applicant for 211 Morgan Street for the request for the increase in lot occupancy from 62.62% to 63.77% for the installation of the spiral staircase. Do I have a second? Who is that? Okay, Michael seconds. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Kevin, okay, motion passes. All right, thank you, Carrie.
Thank you so much, you guys.
All right, thanks for zooming in. See, that was quick, you guys. All right, we're zooming along. Okay, now we have, this is in Alex Lopez's area, parcel 42. So Marcus, if you want to move over, let's see here. We have from Dante's partners, Bua and Stephen, if they're in the house, and Stacy from the mayor's office. Raise your hand so Marcus can see you. Bua,
Yes, Stacy Meyer from DemPed.
Yep. There's Stacy. Bua, we see you. Yep.
And Stephen Vassar.
Yep. Marcus will move him over. Bua, we see you. Do you not hear us? Okay, Marcus will try and move Bua over. He sees that Stacy has her hands raised. Okay, Alex, why don't you tee us up for this?
Yeah, so I was hoping to invite Stacy Meyer from DemPed to first discuss about the district's disposition of parcel 42, which is located at the intersection of Rhode Island Avenue and 7th Street. It's a parcel that's been vacant for decades, I believe. And the district government has been trying to get rid of it, trying to get it developed for quite some time. And Stacy can give a little bit more detail about the history of this this lot and where we are in that process. And then I hope to transfer it over to Dante's partner for an update on the development, which we're hoping that construction should be able to commence soon.
Okay, Stacy, the floor is yours. You can unmute yourself.
I think I have. I've not done this type meeting before. Can you hear me? And
yes, we can. Yep.
Okay. Well, great. It's nice to be here. It's nice to see you all. I'm not really sure how to turn on my video actually. So I would if I knew how. But yeah, so it's nice to see you. I know we've corresponded in the past, Alex, and we've talked on the phone. And is it Rochelle as well? Yeah, a lot of emails. So it's great to be here. We're really excited about parcel 42. I've been working on the project for over a year. It's a simple site, but it has its own share of history and complexity that we've been working really hard to unwind and get things ready to get built. So we're pleased to have had Dante's partners assigned the disposition last year, and they've been working, so it was last March, and they've been working since last March closely with us to come up with the right mix of design and funding and density and programming to make a project that we think is going to be, we all think is going to be very successful here at the corner of R Street and 7th. So yeah, it seems like it takes a really long time, and it does. Things do move slowly, but we do try to, these are important projects. Parcel 42 is a hugely important project. It's a wonderful location, and we're trying to do the right thing here. So we hope that the community agrees that this is a good project, and if there are comments and concerns, we'll love to be responsive to anything that you need from DMPED. So with that, do you need anything else from me, Alex, or did I answer your questions? I'll turn it over to Dante's otherwise.
That was very helpful, Stacy. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Dante's is not seeking any sort of relief from the ANC at this point. This project is moving forward, as I understand, is planned as a by right project. But I think that the significance of this parcel in our community and the volume of affordable units that are being built is an incredible positive development for ANC 6E. So I was excited to invite Dante's to share the development as well as the what I think is an innovative approach to the design for this project. And with that, I'd like to invite Bua or Stephen to provide an update.
You guys can unmute yourselves and also you can present too. Hi, Bua.
Hello.
I think we got some feedback.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Okay. That should do it. Everyone can hear me perfectly?
Yeah, we can.
Can everyone hear me?
Sounds
Oh,
good.
Perfect. Awesome. Good. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to hear us talk about a very, very important project of mine. It's really, really good to see you again, Commissioner Negro. We've worked in the past, for those of you who may not be aware, we've had a very good long history of developing the project in her SMD, which is the project that you all see in the background. So here we are again, we're back at it, and we appreciate everyone for taking the time to hear us talk about what we love to do, which is to create and preserve affordable housing here in the District of Columbia. So by way of background for everyone listening, Dante's Partners is a company I started in 2006 here in the District of Columbia, and our mission is just to facilitate and enhance local economic development deals, primarily focusing on creating and preservation of affordable housing transactions. This is just to give you a flavor of some of the team members. We are almost 100 team members strong. Again, this was, like I said, a company I started in the basement of my house in Bloomingdale, and now it's grown to something that I don't even recognize anymore. And this is just a few of the players that are involved in making a whole bunch of our missions come true here in the district and other parts of the country as well. And Stephen Vassar, if you go back 1 second, is the very handsome young gentleman that you see right there that also appears to look like Drake. That's why we call him Drake in the office. But he's the one on the call right now. So thank you, Stephen, for all that you do. Just very briefly, just going through some of our landmark projects here in the District of Columbia. So folks don't think that we're rookies by any stretch of the imagination. We've closed, 32 units, we recently just closed another 1,900 units right before the end of the year. We're over $1.5 billion worth of transactions in totality, and that's led to us creating and preserving over 5,600 units right now, both here in New York City as well. So, it's always good when we are able to do deals in that background because, DC is obviously home to us, and we love the opportunities to be able to do what we do here. So, especially in Shaw, because Shaw has been great to us. We call Shaw the best one to work in. Very briefly, just sort of going through some of the projects that you all may recognize that we've done in this very same neighborhood. The Hodge, which is on 7th and P Street, it's 100% affordable senior building that we completed in this particular area. The building stays full, it's never empty. And I think a lot of it is a testament to the design of the building, which we will be talking about shortly about Parcel 42. as well as the amenities that we look to introduce. This is another building, another senior building that we just completed on Kennedy Street that is, surprise, surprise, 100% full within a month of delivery. Next project, sir. This is, again, yet another project in Shaw that we just completed. No, I would say we just completed. We completed in 2015, I believe, which is the Phyllis Whitley YWCA building located on the corner of 9th and Rhode Island. This is a very, very special project for me. So if you all see anything happening in front of that building, let me know. Another brainchild of ours, which again, Commissioner Negro is very, very instrumental in us moving this project forward, is the Capitol Vista project, which is on the corner of New Jersey Avenue, 2nd Street, as well as 8th Street. This building lists up within months of opening, and we could not be more proud of what we've all been able to accomplish as far as this transaction is concerned. And tell me that's it. Okay, Delta Towers. So we don't need to show off anymore, Stephen. Let's just go to the nitty-gritty. Okay, so now, the reason why we're here today is to fulfill on a very long promise that was started. Stephen, there's feedback. Stephen, you need to mute. Okay. The reason why we're here today is to fulfill on a very long promise that was initiated, I believe, as far back as 2007 or 2008, as far as Parcel 42 is concerned. And I can't tell you that I could not be more proud to be here with you all today, letting you know that we are literally months away from starting construction on this building. Our overall goal for this site is 110 affordable units. That's going to have a mixture of studios, 1 and 2 bedrooms, and the average size is 720 square feet, which is typically larger than most buildings that are built these days. We're going to be introducing top flight fitness room, as well as a club room that is going to be on the rooftop, which is again going to be synonymous with all of the Class A apartment buildings that folks are seeing today, but at an extremely affordable price, as well as introducing ground floor retail and parking for the residents as well. Next slide. And again, just to orient everybody as far as what the layouts of the building looks like. So this is basically the ground floor plan. A lot of what you're seeing right here is, frankly, it's sort of dictated by the fact that this building sits on top of the Ramada Metro site. So, if anybody wants a tutorial on what not to do as far as a development project in the District of Columbia, do not build on the Ramada Metro site. But we're happy to say that we are making major strides in Ramada. So a lot of what we've done is basically in keeping with and ensuring that, frankly, the metro station isn't compromised in any way, shape, or form. So the orientation of the parking, orientation of the retail, as well as all of the other features that you see in the building is all, again, primarily dictated by the Ramada site. And most of all, everything is going to be at grade. We're not going to be going on the ground. We're not doing any digging beyond a couple of feet, again, to ensure and make sure that the Ramada Metro station that we are all enjoying today isn't compromised in any way, shape, or form. Next slide, sir. And this is what a typical unit floor plan looks like. Again, like I said before, we're seeing studios, we're seeing 1 bedrooms, we're seeing 2 bedrooms. On the 2nd floor is where we're going to introduce the fitness center, which is a pretty large space for our residents to work out and be healthy, as well as what we call a lounge area. One of the things that we've learned coming out of COVID or still experiencing COVID is a lot of people are working from home. However, every now and then they would like to, change of scenery in terms of, so what we've done is introduce cubicles within the apartment building where folks can go and continue working, but within, continue working from home, but at a different location within the building. Next slide, sir. So again, we talked about the rooftop plan. So as you can see, we've got a club room that is right at the top of the building at the penthouse level with a terrace level for the residents to enjoy. This again is no different than what we did at Capitol Vista. I would tell you right now, Capitol Vista, that rooftop is the, if rooftops could be a hot nightclub, our rooftop at Capitol Vista is a very, very popular space that tenants love to congregate at. And Stephen, I don't know if you want to go back a couple more slides just to give folks a flavor of Capitol Vista visual. Yeah, so this is just to give you an idea of how Capitol Vista looks right now, and this space gets utilized. I can't, it's just enjoyed, which is again the reason why we do it. And for those of you who want to really enjoy fireworks on July 4th, this is the place to be. All right, so back to our regular schedule program. So again, again, given that this is an iconic corner, we feel like why not do something interesting as far as call and bring everyone's attention to this major corner. So what we've decided to do is break away from the norm in terms of introducing the boxy buildings that we typically encounter in DC, and just do something fun and innovative. Dante's Partners is known for really pushing the boundaries as far as design is concerned, and we want to continue to do that. And more importantly, a lot of our design inspiration is coming from the fact that just because we're introducing affordable units does not mean it needs to look affordable. I think we can all go around the city and identify what is an affordable building. And we've always sort of shied away from that and basically compete, architecturally speaking, with a lot of the Class A buildings that you're seeing. And that's basically the inspiration behind this building. The next slide, sir. And again, as you can see, just the sharp corners, the sharp colors that we're looking to introduce. You also get to see an idea of our landscaping plan at the foot of the building, as well as some of the ideas that we have for the triangular lot, which will not include any housing whatsoever. It's just going to be basically what we plan. So if you can see from the aerial, we plan to have an art installation and a place for basically an art installation, but also an inspirational wall where folks can go and just be inspired by different, quotes from, famous people, and that could be, I love Jay-Z quotes. So don't be surprised if you see one or two Jay-Z quotes on that art wall. But again, going back to the building, as you can see, we are pushing the boundaries, not just on design, but we're pushing the boundaries on all things environmental features by introducing green roofs everywhere, both on the roofs and on the surface of the building, as well as making sure that the materials that we utilize keep our residents cool and hot during the summer and winter months. So I'm going to pause right here because, and again, this is just sort of showing you all what we're thinking as far as the landscape plan is concerned, and making sure that the triangular lot is complementing the overall building. And again, just a place for people to just go chill, relax, read quotes, have this be like, everyone right now is big on Instagram installation. So don't be surprised if this becomes the hottest location for Instagram pictures in the future, where folks can just go, again, read quotes and also have this be a draw to the Shaw community, as well as the retailer that we end up having at the site. So with that, I would like to stop right here and answer any questions that anybody has.
Hey, Bua, I do have a question. So what is that material on the front that looks like wood, I guess?
Of the building?
Yeah.
So basically it's what we call like a hardy panel, but it has a wood grain. So it sort of gives you the wood feeling, but it's not wood. It's actually hardy panels, which is what you see on most buildings today. So think about the materials at Cap Vista. So if you think about the materials that we use at Cap Vista, like there are areas of the building that sort of, so if you look at the picture of my background now, You would think those are
Yep.
metal panels, but they're just really hardy panels that we use on the building, but they sort of give you that look of like stainless steel.
So does it weather, like it, what is it, what happened, does anything happen to it? Does it look like this forever? Does it weather any?
It looks like this. It looks like this forever, forever. So if you keep going back to Cap Vista today, part of the reason why I love that material is it weathers the storm. Like this building is not going to age at all because of the materials that we use for it. So it's the same materials that we would be introducing at the Parcel 42 site. So it's already been tried, true, and tested.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, commissioners, questions for the Dante team about this building, and we thank you for all your contributions to the community.
Will they help get the alleyway paved properly? Because the city is very slow in fixing potholes, and people race through that alley oftentimes to get from S Street to Rhode Island Avenue. And I'm just wondering if development of this property will help better the alley spaces in that area.
Yeah, so I'm glad you mentioned that, and these are the things that we are working with with DDOT about, because like you rightfully pointed out, this is a city-owned lot, and we want to make sure that all of the traffic control measures are also included going forward. So look, I'll tell you, with Capitol Vista, the street grid that you see there today was not the street grid that was at the site when we started building the property. And we worked extremely close with DDOT to make sure that whatever they did was going to complement our building, but also address all of the major traffic issues that we, as well as DDOT, were looking to address. So given our experience with working with DDOT on Cap Vista, we're confident that we can get DDOT to do the right thing here as well.
This building looks to be 11 stories high. You said you're only going into the ground a couple of feet.
We're not going on the ground at all. This is all slab on grade. Yeah.
There's no requirement to go underground.
The zoning laws as it's currently codified today in the books does not allow. It's one parking space for every, and don't quote me, I think it's for every 6 or so units because of the proximity to the metro, and we are meeting those requirements right now. So we don't need to go underground.
So Boo, I'm sorry, maybe I missed it during your presentation. Are there any parking spaces or no?
Yes, so if you go back to the ground floor plan, right here.
Oh, there, okay, got it, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just surprised that you don't go underground for 11 stories high. Maybe I don't understand construction enough, but I was kind of surprised by that.
We hear you loud and clear, but everything that we've done, everything that we plan to do would always be in accordance with the zoning laws.
There was a question in the chat, but I figured I'd also ask it because I'm really curious. Is there a plan to incorporate off-street dedicated bicycle parking as part of this building?
So per DCRA regs, and again, don't quote me fully, we are required to provide parking. We are required to provide parking within the building for the residents. And I believe, let me get back to you on that. I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't want to speak out of turn in terms of what's required as far as public space is concerned. So that's a question that I can get back to you. We can respond to Commissioner Alex as far as that's concerned, and I'll let you. I don't want to speak out of turn as far as that's concerned.
Could you just go back to the ground floor plan, because I think it may be on there.
Yeah. So the bike room, we have bike room within the building for the residents. As far as what, if anything, we need to provide on the public space,
No,
I'm not sure what the
question was, is there a bike room for residents?
Absolutely, and it's right there at the tip of the building. Yep.
Okay, so commissioners, any other questions before I open it up to the public?
Do they have any retail establishments that is interested in the bottom floor spaces? Just curious.
So I would tell you that given our experience with Capital Vista and given the pandemic, retail has been a very big challenge, not just for us, but for a lot of developers, as I'm sure you can imagine. That notwithstanding, we're very confident that we will secure a retail tenant just because of this location. And I think the moment people see construction activity, the moment folks are going to be knocking on your door and my door, scrambling to get into this building.
Okay.
Bua, can you speak really briefly about the there's that community area that'll be open during the day on the ground floor?
Sure, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned that. So one of the things that we are very excited about this building, it's an experiment of ours, and we hope that it would work out for both us and the community, is the space that is sort of titled Arts for Use right now is the retail space for a prospective retailer to utilize. And we're hoping, and part of the challenge here for us is to find that retailer that sort of allows for bleeding of patronage between the retail space and the space titled Amenities Space Serving Retail. So during the day, Stephen, if you want to put your cursor on the door. So during the day, the door between the two spaces. So during the day, that door will be wide open to allow for inflow and outflow of traffic, where the public can, buy whatever it is that they're buying at the retail site and also chill in our lobby and vice versa. So that's one of the things that, and of course at night it would be closed off to the public, but that's one of the things that we're looking to introduce as a public benefit as part of this redevelopment.
Yeah, I think this reminds me a lot of the Apollo on H Street, where you have the Wide Down coffee shop, and then you have an amenity space, which is also the entrance to the Apollo, where customers can sit during the daytime and taking their coffee, and it being right at the at that prominent intersection. I think this is going to be an interesting space.
That's exactly where we got the inspiration from. So I take zero credit for innovation. We just basically copied and pasted the idea directly from the Apollo. So thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner Lopez.
What about trash collection? Where is your dumpster going to be located? Inside the building or outside?
So, like with most of our buildings, we have a trash chute within the building. So, Stephen, if you want to go to the floor plan again. So the trash chutes are going to be located. So if you look at you see where it says trash compactor?
Yes, I see it now.
So basically, yep. And the trucks will come up the alleyway and pick up the trash that way.
Okay.
Yep. Which hopefully we don't have to deal with because of Cap Vista. For those of you who are aware of what's going on there. So.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? We do have some participant questions. No? Okay. John Shaw, can you take down the presentation, Mr. Vassar? Okay, and Marcus will move over John Shaw or unmute him. Marcus. Are we stuck again? Marcus, can we move John over? Oh, there he is. Okay. Where'd he go? Marcus.
It looks like he put his hand down.
Okay. Oh, he said he's been moved over. Where'd he go? Maybe John Shaw, if you want to speak, put your hand back up because you disappeared. Okay, maybe not. Okay.
He's already been moved over. I'm not sure.
I don't know where he. Okay. John, if you want to mute yourself, go ahead. If not, we'll catch you later. Okay, any other community member have questions about this project? Press *9 or use the raise your hand feature. There's John again. Marcus sees you, John. There he is. Thank you, Marcus. All right, John. Go ahead and mute yourself, John.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I had not raised my hand again. I don't know why it keeps coming back up. But
Okay.
while I'm on, I'd like to see the slide that shows the division of the apartments. The average size was 700 square feet, and there were so many one bedrooms, so many studios. I would just like to see that slide again if the presenters could present it. I missed it somehow. But otherwise, I think it's a great project. I'm glad it's curved and it kind of matches the old high school across the street. I think it's a lovely building.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
What's the ETC? Estimated time of completion.
I like that question. You're eager. Listen, our hope is to be in the ground within first quarter of 2022. And Stephen, what's the construction time frame? How many months are we projecting?
24 months.
24 months. Yeah. So
2 years. Okay.
So to answer your question, the breakdown of the apartments are 14 studios, 77 one bedrooms, and 19 two bedrooms.
All right, great. Thank you, John Shaw. Anyone else before we move on? Press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature about this, a question about this project. Nope. Okay.
All right, so I can't thank you enough, Commissioner Negro. You've been an instrumental partner as far as our ability to move numerous projects in the Shaw neighborhood. And I also want to take this time to really, really thank Commissioner Lopez, because he's been very patient. He's done his job exceptionally well in terms of staying on top of us, and has also been a wonderful advocate in order to move this project forward. We're looking forward to seeing everybody at the groundbreaking soon, so be on the lookout. And thank you again for your time and your support to not just our company, but to creating and preserving affordable housing units in DC. Thank you all.
Well, thank you for zooming in. We look forward to the project being completed.
Same here. Cheers.
Okay,
Happy
great.
New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Thanks for coming. Okay, and we're moving on to the minutes, approval of the minutes. I sent Karen the updated version. Karen, you got that today, right? Yep. Super. Okay, do we have a motion about the minutes for December 7th? Anyone?
I move to approve the December 2020 minutes.
2020.
2020. What year is it again?
I'll second.
All right, Alex seconds. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great, super, thank you. Okay, Frank.
So.
Frank's part.
Yes. I'm here to present the monthly treasury report. As you have seen in the report that I sent to you via email several hours ago, our opening balance for December was $57,762.97. We're finishing up the fiscal year with a balance of $57,321.54. I move that we accept this as a true balance, as it coincides with the actual checking account balance for bank statement that I've shown you or given to you previously. So everything matches, everything is in order. So I move we accept this as a true balance of $57,321.54. Provided I can get a second.
Second that.
Okay, Michael seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Motion passes. Thank you.
Right.
All right.
Not done. I move that ANC 6E support the payment of $250 to Karen Yaley for the management of the website as well as taking of the minutes for this meeting, provided I can get a second.
I second.
Any seconds? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that ANC 6E support the payment of $164.29 to Michelle Nigro for the reimbursement of the Zoom meeting costs for December, January, provided I can get a second.
I second.
Wait, can I get a clarification? I think that the treasurer's report just says December. Is this for December and January?
Well, actually, the Zoom, if you take a look at the invoice, it's really for January, but the date period is the reason I stated the December because it's technically December 26th.
So I'm
through
billed in
January 25th.
December. It just, the bill date's in December, but we use it in January.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So,
but this covers 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one
Like
meeting.
really 4 days in December and the rest of the time is in January.
So when they got my credit card. That was it.
Yeah. So motion is on the floor. Motion is
We have
on the
a
floor.
second.
All in favor?
Oh, Denise seconds. Aye. Aye.
Motion moved.
Thank you, Frank.
Also, I submitted to you the quarterly financial report FY22 Q1 first quarter, which is now ended, which was October, November, and December. So that report, which also states that the balance forward is $57,321.54, is the final dollar figure for the end of the quarter, which just ended last week. So I move that we accept this. I'll get the rest of that report prepared for the next meeting, so we can vote for the whole package. So if you want to hold back that vote for this particular document, the financial report FY22 Q1, we can wait till February when I have all the information together for the whole quarter.
Yeah, and we won't get it. We won't get a ding email. We will, Frank? No, we'll be all right.
No,
Okay.
We'll deal with that.
Frank, I love those emails.
I just have a clarifying question. On this financial report, all the disbursements are under communication. Is that correct?
That is correct. Category, yeah, all of this is under category 3 because all of the reimbursements is for Karen managing the website. That's communication. The minutes is communication, and Rochelle's meeting costs for distribution of the agenda. That's all communication.
All communication.
So
okay.
everything is category 3.
Okay. Okay. I thought Karen might have been personnel, but it's under communication. Got it.
No, she's definitely communication.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Frank, we'll wait till next month on that then. And then we have anything else, or should we have to do the approval of the expenses? No, we did that.
We approved the expense. I know.
Okay,
fine job.
I'm sorry. Okay, so then we get to talk about the security fund.
Yes. Well, let's see. We need to. Well, all three of us are still the same person, but we still need to pay the $25 to be. Yeah, I think we still need to do the $25.
We do today.
Yes.
And we're going to make sure they get it. Remember our confusion last year?
Yes, yes. So I need to write it. We need to approve the $25 payment to the security fund.
That's right. And then we're going to get the check to them. This is too long of a story, but there was befuddlement over $25 for literally too long of a time period. So
right. Yeah, I got that cleaned up last year.
All right, so it's just 25, right, Frank? Nothing changed?
$25 for the security fund, correct. That goes to the office of ANC, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, I can take care of that. So I move the ANC 6E support, pay them the $25 for the ANC security fund, provided I can get a second.
Michael seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Kevin? Okay. Okay, Kevin votes aye. Okay, all in favor. Motion passes. Thank you. Are we okay, Frank? Are we done?
I think we're done.
Great. Okay, all right. So now we're going to talk about the meeting dates for next year. And I sent Karen the list, and I'm going to do a motion. I'm going to just tell you the dates first. So they're always the first Tuesday. And from what I went down the calendar today, there are no conflicts, but you know, we can always change it. So it's February 1st, March 1st, April 5th, May 3rd, June 7th, July 5th. We have no meeting in August, September 6th, October 4th, November 1st, December 6th, and January 3rd. Does anyone have any problems with us still being the first Tuesday of the month, or any desire to change at all, or? No.
I think that we need to also include January 2022.
That's what I said, January 3rd.
Okay. Okay.
23.
23, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Okay, no other questions from the commissioners about this? Okay. I move that ANC 6E have their meetings the first Tuesdays of the month at 6:30. February, this is all 2022 until the last date. So February 1st, March 1st, April 5th, May 3rd, June 7th, July 5th. We're not meeting in August, September 6th, October 4th, November 1st, December 6th, and then January 3rd of 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Michael seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Frank, aye. Okay, I think, all right. Okay, it's time for announcements. All right, anyone have any announcements? No? Okay. Any announcements from the community? Press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature.
Oh, sorry, actually, I do have an announcement.
Okay.
So there is a new project currently planned as a planned unit development in my area, almost right across the street from me. The address is 1707 8th Street Northwest. It's currently, the parcels are occupied by the Heritage at Shaw. It's 4 garden style apartments, buildings, I believe 3 stories apiece. There's a proposal now moving forward for a new construction to replace those existing parcels. And we are having a meeting on it tomorrow night. No, not tomorrow, Thursday, starting at 6:30, open house format until around 8. So if anyone is interested in providing, learning more about the project and providing input, feel free to join that meeting. Then please email me at 6e01@anc.dc.gov for the Zoom link. I'll be happy to share it with you. Thank you.
Great. All right, I don't think we, thank you, Michael. That sounds like a very exciting, maybe we can have them over next month for the public presentation, you know, maybe, I don't know, or whatever you want. So, okay. Okay, everyone, this has been great. I would like to thank all of my fellow commissioners. This has been a fantastic year. And a special shout out to co-host Marcus and co-host Ed, who has left us already, but I could not have done these 2 years of almost 2 years virtual meeting without them. It was a heavy lift, to say the least, every month. So I thank them very much. And thank you to Karen for her patience with us. So next year, Commissioner Eichler will be at the helm. Hooray! And it's going to be fantastic. So we wish everyone a very wonderful new year, and thank you for joining us. And we'll see everyone in February. I move that we adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Michael seconds. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, ever see everyone? February 1st. Bye. See ya. Thank you, everyone.
Happy New
Ciao,
Year.
ciao.
Happy New Year.
Bye. Bye.